Hello and welcome to Ryno Sports Talk. And first off is I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. I know you guys are hoping to have a good year this year, and I'm hoping so as well. And today's going to be a kind of a different one. This may or may not make it to the Sunday podcast, but it is going to be just a little bit of a special, if you want to call it that. And what this one will be is a Week 17 NFL preview. So a lot of games, 12 to be exact, or have implications for the playoff picture in the NFL this year. I kind of run through them, talk about the playoff picture, and predict them kind of. So we're going to get started here with playoff scenarios. And how I'm going to start right now is I'm going to start with the 4 games that don't really matter. And first one is the Washington professional football team against the Cowboys. I think Washington wins that game. They're just a little bit more motivated. They have a little bit of a better team. Cowboys have a washed away season basically, and Cowboys are also starting Kellen Moore, so they don't really have anything to play for, and they're not doing really anything right now, and their quarterback situation's in flux. I don't really see them doing really good in that game. Next game is Eagles-Giants. I have the Giants winning this one just because they have a little bit more stability and things like that. Coughlin knows kind of what he's doing. He can game plan and stuff. He doesn't know the time management part, but I think it's his last game. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the next podcast. Not this week, but the week after. One question on this one, in this game, that I'm kind of wondering, since the Eagles fired Chip Kelly this past week, does Murray do a little bit more, get a little more carries, and what's their offense really going to look like is my question. So they didn't really use DeMarco Murray, who was their big pickup. They didn't really use him this year with Chip Kelly, and I want to see what they do without him and just kind of see what their plan for the future is after Chip Kelly. Next up, we have Lions and Bears. Both these teams are really have lost seasons, I guess, and they're kind of fighting for positioning in the draft order. And this game could be really good or really bad. I'm really interested to see what Jay Cutler does as his revitalization of his career, kind of his career year with Adam Gase this year. But I'm also interested to see how Stafford reacts to this game being almost nothing, meaning nothing to him or the team. But I do have the Lions winning this just because they have a little bit of a better team and a little bit more consistency this year. So Lions winning that one. Then the last non-affecting game of the week is Rams-49ers. Both these teams are NFC West teams. Well, they're all division games, but they're from the NFC West. And both teams had higher expectations than normal for the year, and I think the Rams just kind of underperformed. They had Nick Foles. They do have Todd Gurley, so that's something to look forward to next year. 49ers don't really know what to do at quarterback. Kaepernick's looked really bad. Blaine Gabbert's looked pretty good, but it's also Blaine Gabbert, and he's not really reliable going into the season. So we're going to see what happens there with that game. I do have the Rams in that game just because they have Todd Gurley and a little bit of a better defense. And I'm going to be really interested to see after the year if they lose this game, if the Rams lose this game. Well, I guess 49ers too, is what do they do with their coaches? Do the 49ers give up with Tom Sula after 1 year and go after Chip Kelly, which I'll talk about later in the podcast? And do the Rams give up on Jeff Fisher after 3 mediocre years where they're supposed to be in the playoffs? That's going to be a really interesting topic to think about and see what both the franchises do going into this game and after this game as well. So now moving on to the games that matter. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to kind of say the game, say what that matters for, and then give my prediction for it. So the first game is Patriots-Dolphins, and this one really only matters for the Patriots. Could also matter for the Broncos as well. But if the Patriots win, they get the first seed in the AFC and also a first round bye and home field advantage throughout. Obviously, what comes with being the number one seed. And I do like the Patriots in that game, and mainly for the fact that it's the Patriots, and they're also going against the Dolphins, who have really given up on the season, so I don't really see them doing much or even trying in the game. Moving on to the second game, it is Denver and San Diego. This one has a little bit of more, I guess, meaning to it. The Broncos have already clinched a playoff spot, but like I said before, if the Patriots lose, they win, they get the number one seed. If they win, or the Bengals lose, or the Chiefs lose, or no, the Chiefs and Bengals lose, they get the first round bye, or if just the Bengals lose. So they either have to have the Bengals have to lose without a win, and for the Broncos to get in, and the Chiefs have to lose as well for the Broncos to get a first round bye. Or they could just win. That's the simplest way. And then also the AFC, if they win this game, automatic AFC champs. If they lose it and the Chiefs win, they are the Chiefs are the AFC champs. So easy enough. It's kind of getting lost, but Broncos win, they're AFC champs. They lose, they have a chance at not being the champs. With that game, I have Denver winning just because it's in Denver. San Diego has really nothing to play for. They've played the last game in San Diego, supposedly. And I guess we'll just see what happens. I think Chargers are pretty good. Phillip Rivers knows how to play Denver, and I'm kind of scared of that game just because of Phillip Rivers. But it'll be really interesting to see what happens. Going on, the next game is Bengals and Ravens. And for the Bengals, they've already clinched the AFC North. But if they win and the Broncos lose, they get a first round bye in the number 2 seed. Or if they tie and the Broncos lose. Or if the Broncos lose and the Chiefs win. So all that really hinges on the Broncos game and the Chiefs game. It's basically the Bengals have to win also. And they have to win. Unless the Chiefs win and Broncos lose, kind of deal. And with this game, I'm really interested. The Ravens are coming off a big win against the Steelers. And that's going to be really interesting to see how they respond to that. And then there's the Bengals who are coming off the loss to the Broncos on Monday night. And I also don't know who the quarterback is. It could be McCarron. It could be Carson winning. Something winning. Keith winning. That's it. So you don't really know who their starter is yet because McCarron could be hurt or he could be playing it. Really just it will be determined early Sunday because they haven't really announced anything. So I'm leaving that as a toss-up, and I'm going to lean toward the Bengals just because they're a little bit of a better team, and half the Ravens team is on IR is what it seems like. They're not really, but it seems like that. So moving on to the next game, I'm going to talk about Kansas City and Oakland. Kansas City's already clinched the playoff spot, and if they win and the Broncos lose, they get the AFC West. I already talked about that. And I think this is going to be a really close game. Oakland just turned out to be a really good team this year. And especially with Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack and Derek Carr, they're going to be forced to be reckoned with in the AFC West for a couple of years down the road. I do think the Chiefs win it, but not without a good fight from the Raiders, so it's going to be a really close game. And it's going to be a fun game to watch if I could get to watch it. Next up is Texans and Jags. So the Texans and Jags game is really interesting because Texans can win the AFC South with the win or a Colts loss. There's a couple other scenarios on here. Like if the Bengals, Chargers, Jets, Patriots, and Saints, one of those teams win, they automatically they automatically win the strength of victory tiebreaker over the Colts. If the Bengals, Chargers, Jets, or Patriots, or Saints win, just one of them. Another way is if they win the strength of schedule over the Colts if the Chiefs win, the Steelers lose. as long as both teams don't tie, which doesn't really happen in the NFL. So Chiefs have to win and Steelers have to lose. And I mean, this game doesn't have a lot riding on it. It's the AFC South. They're probably going to lose first round to whoever the 5 seed is. I can't think of it. It's going to probably be the Chiefs or Broncos. Whoever ends up not winning the AFC West is going to be the 5 seed. So that game's going to mean a lot to the Texans to win. Jaguars are becoming a sneaky good team in the NFL now. I think that they're turning into one of the better young teams of the NFL with Blake Bortles, Allen Hurns, and all that. I do have the Jags winning just based on more talent. The Texans are starting Brandon Weeden. He's not very good. So I have the Jags winning. But I kind of want to see what they do against that Texans defense, and that's really ramped up recently. So moving on to the Colts. This is going to be kind of crazy. The Colts and Titans are playing, and Colts are really playing for 2 things. They're playing for their playoff lives. They have to have 9 things happen, which I'll talk about in just a second. They're also playing for Coach Pagano and his, life as a coach. If they lose this game, it's projected that he's going to lose his job, which I don't really agree with. He never had Andrew Luck this year and all that. That's going to be talked about in the next podcast, but they have to have 9 things happen. So first off, they have to win, like I said. They also have to have the Jaguars win. The Bills have to win. The Dolphins have to win. The Ravens have to win. The Falcons have to win. The Raiders have to win. The Broncos have to win. And the Steelers have to win. That's a lot to have happen. That's 9 things that have to happen. I don't see a lot of it happening. So I would kind of count out the Colts, but the NFL is kind of parodied this year, and it's getting kind of ridiculous. It's not really... It's just crazy this year. Anything can really happen. I do have the Colts winning this game because the Titans are going for that number 1 pick. Hopefully trying to help out Marcus Mariota, give him some weapons, or get him a defensive end or something. We'll see. I'll talk about that in another mock draft on my blog. So, next up we have Saints-Falcons. This has something to do with the Colts. Yep, Colts game. So they have to have the Falcons win. So the Falcons are coming off a win off of the Panthers, and I project them to win this game too, just because they're coming in on a hot streak, and they're a good team. The Saints aren't very good. They're about to lose, or they're about to break a record for best or worst passer rating by the defense or the opposing quarterbacks that face them. They allow 117 passer rating, which is 6 points better than any other team in NFL history. They've also allowed the most passing yards in a single season in NFL history, so I don't think they're very good. Falcons still got Julio Jones, and they can throw it up to him, Devonta Freeman, a couple other guys, so I think Falcons are going to win that. Next up is Steelers and Browns. Steelers have to win this game and the Jets lose to get into the playoffs. And that's all. They also impact the Colts, which you can say about almost every game this week. But I think that the Browns are just the Browns, and they're pretty bad. And they also don't have Johnny Manziel this week. He's out with a concussion. So I'm going to start Austin Davis, and I've seen him play, I've watched him in college, and he's a pretty good quarterback, but they have no really wide receivers or anything for him to throw to, so yeah, their offense is pretty bad. And then Steelers are one of the best, if not the best, offenses in the NFL. So I think they're going to throw all over the Browns defense and just kind of beat up on them. I don't really see it being a close game. Steelers are going to win by a lot. They just got to hope that the Jets lose as well. And where's that? And then the next game is Panthers-Bucks. This one's going to be pretty quick. With this one, Panthers win, they get the number 1 seed. Or if the Cardinals lose, they get the 1 seed. And Panthers are just flat out one of the best teams in the NFL, if not the best team. It's really between them and the Patriots. They got one of the best defenses and a solid offense led by Cam Newton, and he's easily the best player in the NFL, probably the MVP at the moment. And the Buccaneers, I think they're only really playing just to finish out the year. I think Jameis Winston is going to do something this year. He's a really good quarterback. I liked him in Florida State. I like him in the NFL. He's got a lot of weapons around him. He's got future here in the NFL with that team. And it's going to be really just an interesting game. So 2 games left. I'm going to leave the other one, the Packers-Vikings, for the last just because it's a better game. And it means a lot more. But the Cardinals play the Seahawks on Sunday. And if they win and Panthers lose, they get the number 1. If they don't, they get the number 2. Guaranteed top 2. It really depends on what the Panthers do. But I think the Cardinals, if they see the Panthers win earlier in the day, I think the game will be over by halftime. The Panthers game will be over by the Cardinals game at halftime. And if they see the Panthers won, they're going to sit a lot of their players and just play to stay healthy, kind of. Not really go for the win, just because the Seahawks, if they win and the Vikings lose, they're the number 5. But if Vikings win, they're the number 6. So I think they're going to be trying to play for that 5 and play the who is it? Play the number 4 seed, which would be the Redskins. I think they'd rather play the Redskins than the Vikings or Packers. And that's kind of what I think about that. So I think Seahawks will win. They're also playing really well right now, so I think they're going to pull off the win. I think it's in Seattle. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up. Let me look real quick. But I'm going to move on to the next game, which is the Packers and Vikings. That Seahawks-Cardinals game is in Arizona, so we're going to see what the Seahawks can do on a road, because they're going to be on the road most of the time. Well, actually, probably all the time. But anyways, moving on to the Packers-Vikings. This is going to be the game of the week. I think it's the Sunday night game on NBC, and the winner basically clinches the NFC North and the 3 seed. And the loser, well, that really depends. The Vikings, if they become the loser, are the number 5 seed if the Seahawks lose. And if the Seahawks, like I said, if Seahawks win, Vikings lose, they're the Seahawks are number 5. But with the Packers, I think if the Packers lose, they're automatically the number 5. And that'll be a really interesting game because I see them beating the Washington team fairly easily because Washington isn't very good. But the Seahawks would then play the 3 seed, which would be the Vikings. So that the Packers-Vikings game kind of means a lot to the seeding. It really decides the bottom half of the seeding, the 3, 4, 5 pick or seeds. And I think that the Vikings will win that game, even though it is in Lambeau. I think the Vikings just have a little bit better of a team right now. They're a little bit more consistent. They got Adrian Peterson who can outrun almost everyone on the Packers defense, and then Packers really have no run game unless Eddie Lacy decides to show up. So I don't know. I think Vikings are going to win. I could see it going either way. It's going to be a close game, really good game. But there you have it. There's my NFL Week 17 predictions and playoff predictions. If you missed it this week, I previewed the college football semifinal on my blog, and I will have a full big podcast up this upcoming week. I have a lot of interesting topics I'm going to talk about, including the supposed firing of Chuck Pagano and the actual firing of Chip Kelly. And I also have, let me look at my list here, the recap of the college football playoff, the trade in the MLB that happened this week, and the HBH report, as well as a really interesting topic, which I'm going to keep a little bit secret, and you guys will find out podcast on Sunday. So, yeah, look forward to that. If you haven't already, read my blog, and next week on my blog I will have a preview of the NFL playoffs coming up. So thanks for listening. You guys listen to all my picks and a little preview of the week. So if you haven't already, check out the blog, like I said, and look forward to the podcast on Sunday. Deuce.